My story today is about Kim Volker, a physical therapist, and her patient who had his knee replaced. So a little bit of background on the patient. He had played high school football and had an old football injury, and it injured one of the nerves, which controlled the muscles in one of his legs. And of course, the knee he had replaced was the opposite knee. So even before his knee replacement, he had trouble standing up and sitting down out of various heights of chairs, and he had made modifications in his home, such as handles and things like that, to help him stand up and sit down. He was progressing along with his therapy fairly well, and Kim was ready to send him to outpatient therapy. And he'd been to a place before, and he wanted to go back to that same place. But what he remembered was the waiting room, and he remembered very low chairs. He remembered chairs without armrests, and he remembered all of these things that he was envisioning himself getting stuck in that waiting room and not being able to go back when they called him for his physical therapy. And Kim really understood that this was his fear. This was his big barrier in keeping him in home. So what Kim did is she drove to the outpatient facility, and she took her tape measure, and she measured from the floor to the seat height of the chairs in the waiting room, took notes of which ones had handles, which ones did not, kind of took a layout of the waiting room, got a couple of funny stares from the people sitting there, but took it all in stride and took that information back. And then she recreated that in his house so that he knew what height he needed 17-inch chairs, and he knew that he could stand up and sit down from them. So she set it all up into his house and used some chairs had armrests, some did not, and had him practice so that he knew that he could stand up and sit down, and that helped him overcome that fear of going to outpatient therapy. It's not only the physical aspects that keep our patients homebound, but sometimes it's the fear of going back out into the community. Can I get back to do what I'm going to do? Am I going to get stuck at a store? Am I going to get stuck doing this? Am I not going to be able to do something? And so what Kim did is took a very emotional fear and that this gentleman had, an emotional issue this gentleman had, and took what she could do physically for him to help him overcome that fear. Showed him that he does have the physical capability to overcome what he was very fearful of. Kim did it with such humility. She did not tell me what happened. She did not tell any of her coworkers what she did for this patient. She just did it. That was part of her everyday job. The only way that we found out about the story is that the patient was so impressed that he went and told his physician, who then told a nurse, who then told somebody else, and of course 6 degrees of separation later, the story came back to Melba and I in the rehab department. So I just wanted to recognize Kim for her ICARE values and to thank her for this.